I'm John Heilemann.
And I'm Mark Halperin. With all due respect to Larry David, Bernie Sanders impersonated you first.
You know, George, it struck me today that a communist pipeline into the vast pipeline of Cuban baseball talent could be the greatest thing to happen to this organization.
Don't ignore me. It worked. Admit it. It worked.
In our personal email to Hillary tonight, the Benghazi container, Jeb's missed baskets, and Donald's special mailbox. But first, nobody told us 2015 was going to be this way. Joe Biden is basically the Ross and Rachel of 2015. Willie, won't he? Willie, won't he? The word seems to be coming soon, possibly in time for the very important Jefferson Jackson dinner in Iowa this Saturday night, where all the Democratic presidential candidates will speak before Hawkeye State Party activists.
And us.
There's lots of media reporting that Biden is going to make a decision soon, and the drift of the coverage is he's getting in. Fox News has gone the farthest, reporting today that Biden's answer will, in fact, be yes. Unlike Ross and Rachel, though, Biden didn't go to Vegas to seal the deal. But like Ross and Rachel, he's pretty much the only person that the press is talking about. Key amongst the pre-action, Dick Durbin, Democratic senator from Illinois, who played down Biden's chances on Morning Joe.
Joe's had his bumps in the road and his races for president and questions about whether he was misquoting people and such. But Hillary has a long history of controversy, and I think that turns some people off. I think most of it has been manufactured by her critics and enemies, and I think at this point that she still brings the strongest candidacy for president.
If Joe Biden got in today, could he win the nomination?
Well, I'm not sure at this point because I don't want to say it's too late. I mean, it's a long time until next November. But I would say at this point, he has not had the starting structure that they have.
So you'd make him a long shot?
I would.
Okay.
I would.
So, John, if Biden gets in the next 48 hours or so, how's the water for him?
I have no idea how the water is, but I'll tell you that there literally is not a single piece of reporting at this moment that I believe about this matter. I'm so far, I believe that at this point Joe Biden is making a deeply personal, deeply emotional, deeply.
Okay, but
it's complicated.
But if he gets in, how's the environment?
It's not as good as it would have been back when Hillary Clinton's poll numbers were diving and when Benghazi looked like it might hurt her, or not Benghazi, but the email controversy looked like it might hurt this. We've been saying since the Democratic debate that the political environment is more forbidding for him now than it was a month ago, or than a lot of the people around him thought it would be at this point. No doubt about that, but I don't think it matters to him at all.
I don't think it matters to him, and I will say, if he gets in and performs well and talks about his record as vice president, talks about what he wants to do for the country, and comes across as a guy who is untroubled by the problems that Hillary Clinton has and can win, I think he'll do just fine.
I think he could do fine, too. I think it will be very interesting to see. It will create a bunch of splits within the Democratic coalition that a lot of people have not given enough attention to. She will obviously be the candidate of women, largely. He has very strong, and she has a lot of weakness with men. He has a lot of strength with men. So in addition to the demographic, the racial, Hispanic, African-American problems that with here on Bernie Sanders, you're now going to have a gender split in the party.
The water's fine. Come on in, Mr. Vice President.
Hillary Clinton has her big Benghazi hearing coming up on Thursday. And to get ahead of the barrage, her team put out a mini 5-minute hagiography about her accomplishments as Secretary of State, featuring stars like Madeleine Albright and Leon Panetta. Could it be any more generous? Clinton and the Democrats have been on offense of late, accusing the Benghazi committee of naked and transparent political chicanery ever since Kevin McCarthy made those infamous remarks. And in the coming days, both sides will be in full prep mode for the showdown. So, Marcus, what will it take for the Republicans to salvage this potential debacle politically?
It is going to be very hard to run a hearing like this. It's not the least bit bipartisan, and this one isn't. Everything the Republicans are saying about how they plan to conduct the hearing sounds to me to like a disaster in the making. They don't seem very organized. One member of the House who's on the committee said he hopes he doesn't embarrass himself during the hearing. Right. So I think if they've got some rabbits that they're ready to pull out of the hat, if they have some smoking gun, if they have some way to question Hillary Clinton and put her on the defensive, they could try to salvage this. But I think this is setting up to be a bigger triumph for her than the debate on the current trajectory.
I would like to see them pull both a rabbit and a smoking gun out of the hat.
Or a smoking rabbit.
A smoking rabbit, a rabbit that is shot. Look, everything we've heard, that for all of the criticism that he's gotten, that Trey Gowdy is super proud of his role in bringing out the email stuff, that he's not at all trying to like confine any of the members on the Republican side from asking email questions. I think that there was a time that you argued, and I was open to the idea that this committee would be unlike all other Republican-run committees that have investigated her. I think it is going to be just like every other Republican committee, that they are going to misplay their hand, overplay their hand, and I think she's going to do just fine.
And I can't wait to see what the Democrats ask, because they're going to halt any momentum the Republican questioners.
Well, and there's also talk about all of them resigning from the committee the moment this hearing is over.
Okay, stumbling Jeb, what are they feeding you? No longer seen as a front-runner by even his own supporters, Jeb Bush is trying to again come back, built around taking on Donald Trump. The latest fight between the two Republicans has gone on now for several days, 4 days on cable TV and Twitter, and it involves the discussion about George W. Bush and what responsibility he might or might not have for 9/11. So, John, Jeb Bush once again trying to come back by taking on Trump. Does he have a better chance to have this succeed this time than in the past times?
No, not at all. You know, I thought that when Mike Murphy said a few months ago in one of his rare public utterances in the Washington Post that Donald Trump was somebody else's problem, I thought he was right for now. And I still think that's right.
Mike Murphy, Jeb's strategist who's working at the Super PAC.
Works at the Super PAC. I thought that, you know, he's not running in Donald Trump's lane. If Trump attacks him, he should fight back. But there's no mileage in attacking Jeb Bush for attacking Donald Trump or Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush has got to be the consensus, try to get to be the consensus establishment alternative to that other side. This, I do not believe, gets him there.
And he cannot kill Donald Trump in October fighting about his brother. He's got to rehabilitate himself and talk about the future. It's crazy. I haven't talked to a single Republican strategist today who thought this could work or would work.
If he's attacking Marco Rubio, if he's attacking John Kasich, if he's trying to win in that bracket, that makes a lot of sense to me. Being feisty, being tough, taking people on, I see that. I just don't think nobody has won against Trump, for one thing, and I don't even know what a victory would look like for Jeb in this context, given the trajectory he's on.
You cannot beat Trump in a fight conducted by Twitter and in web videos.
Right.
You just can't beat him.
Maybe on a debate stage you could have a Carly Fiorina moment. If Trump went after Jeb, maybe he could rise to the challenge. But in this context, it seems contrived.
And Jeb Bush said he would only run if he could run joyfully.
Not
and he
joyful.
Never looks joyful attacking Donald Trump, ever.
Nothing joyful about this. Okay, hey, that's Seelan. How you doing? As Congress comes back from break today, Treasury Secretary Jack Lew is warning that November 3rd is the day the sidewalk ends if the debt limit isn't increased. The House Republican Conference will meet tomorrow to discuss its October agenda, and John Boehner, the soon-to-be former Speaker of the House, whose exit won't come soon enough as far as he's concerned, has to figure out, once again, a way to get his caucus in order. So, Mark, what, if any, indications are there that the GOP can get its blank together?
It's possible that Boehner will find some way to raise the debt ceiling, offering a fig leaf to the conservatives who'd like to get something in return. Ted Cruz, once again over the weekend, said, of course, Republicans should get something in return for raising the debt ceiling. The White House won't negotiate on that. The president won't negotiate on on keeping there from being a government shutdown. I think the only hope Republicans have, Paul Ryan becomes Speaker, and conservatives basically follow his lead and say, you know what, we could have a Republican president in January of 2017. Let's focus on the conditions to make that happen. It looks very grim right now.
I hate agreeing with you on every topic, but that's what's happening tonight. This thing on the Republican side, with the exception of the Ryan situation, which on the basis of some reporting that's out there, not mine, but others, seems to be maybe he's moving towards taking the speakership, which is what I thought he would do all along. That would be something that would obviously help end what is right now a total fustercluck. It's ridiculous over there on that side.
The only way the debt ceiling gets raised, as best I can tell, is if once again John Boehner allows Nancy Pelosi to provide the votes to do it. I'm not sure what the implications of that would be for the peace in the Republican Party, but it would be a little ugly. All right, we're going on a break. Up next, Dan Balz, The Washington Post, and our colleague Al Hunt weigh in on the Veep of the USA. Is it his day, his week, his month?
Or even his year?
We'll be right back.
I've been the leading guy on, and as a consequence, very controversial on gun safety. The last time we passed any legislation dealing with guns was what I wrote. I wrote the proposals for the president.
That was Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. at the White House today, speaking at a climate change summit, where naturally being Joe Biden, he brought up his record on gun control, which makes perfect sense. Here to talk about all things Veep is Dan Balz, chief correspondent for the Washington Post, and Albert Reinhold Hunt Jr., Bloomberg View's chief Albert Reinhold Hunt Jr. Gentlemen, let's talk about Joe, and we'll start with you, Al. What do you know?
I don't know a thing, John. I'm the same boat you're in. You talk to all kinds of different people. All signals are he's going to run. I remember all signals once were that Mitt Romney was going to run. Years ago, when Dan Balz and I were young, all signals were that Mario Cuomo was going to run. So let's just see what he does. My guess right now is that they intend to run, but 48 hours can be a long time.
Dan, if he does get in, what is required for him to launch well?
Well, he needs to be able to, right off the bat, have a compelling message that is something other than "I'm not Hillary Clinton." There's been so much attention focused on whether this decision is being based on an assessment of her strength. I think that's not necessarily the basis of the decision, but that's certainly the way the outside world is judging it. If he gets in, he's got to come up with something other than that to show what he really wants to do and where he wants to take the country. It's not that different from what any other successful candidate does at the beginning of a campaign.
Dan, we've had a lot of polling now over the last few months that had Joe Biden as part of a hypothetical race. Tell us what you think at this moment, whether it's right to assume that Bernie Sanders is the happiest man in America if Joe Biden gets in, given that it seems that Biden is going to draw support from Clinton more than he will from Sanders.
Everything we've seen in our polling and other people's polling suggests that Biden takes from Clinton, and that if Biden is not in the race, most of his support goes to Clinton. And so for Sanders, that's exactly right. I mean, I think there's some Biden people who think that there's a distinctive constituency for each of the three candidates, and that over the course of a long campaign, they might be able to prevail. But that would have to play out. That's all hypothetical at this point.
Al, one of the notable things Hillary Clinton did in the debate, it seemed to me, was to try to cling close to President Obama and to talk about being part of the administration. If Biden gets in, do those two have a fight over who is the true heir to Barack Obama?
I think they might do a little bit of that, but I don't think it's much going to matter. Mark, look, as someone writing about this campaign, I hope Joe Biden gets in. It makes it more fun, more interesting. But I can't see a pathway to victory for him. I think they have their differences. She's more hawkish on foreign policy, but that'll be fuzzed over a bit. He's a little bit more of a populist. That'll be fuzzed over a bit. They may argue about Obama. She'll say, I was his Secretary of State. He'll say, I was his Vice President. I don't think that's going to determine much. I just think that Joe Biden is a guy that almost everybody likes, but they got to ask the question, is the capstone of a remarkable career to lose the nomination for the presidency for the third time? And that's what it looks like will happen.
Dan, let me ask you about demographics here, right? At the moment, you've got Hillary Clinton. One of her presumed strengths is that she's strong with Hispanic Americans, strong with African Americans. Bernie Sanders, almost all of his vote is white right now, liberal, young, right? Joe Biden gets in. How does that complicate things, both the gender, in terms of the gender split, also maybe in terms of some of the racial and ethnic split?
Well, it's hard to know what would happen with the gender split. I mean, she does well with women, not so well with men. We know that already. It's not clear to me exactly how Biden how he would cut into either of those constituencies. On the racial makeup, Joe Biden has been a champion of civil rights all his life. He should have some support, but I think that the Clintons have deeper ties in the African American community, and he would have to battle her for that constituency.
Al, as we get closer to February, I know you don't think much of Biden's chances, but will electability matter to Democratic voters if Biden is shown doing stronger in head-to-head against Republicans? Do you think that will matter to voters at all?
It's got to be significantly different, Mark, and as you noted earlier, the polls don't show that right now. If it looks like Hillary Clinton is a almost certain loser and Joe Biden looks like a real winner, perhaps that'll make a difference. But usually, I don't think people vote on the basis of who's going to do better 9 months later. And Joe Biden should be encouraged by some of my track record, because I've been wrong more than a few times before. But I just think Dan is right. There are a whole lot of places where Joe's strong, but she's there. She may even be stronger. Joe's terrific with labor unions. But a lot of labor unions are going to say, wait a minute, she looks more like a winner.
Let me ask you a mechanical question. I'm going to ask this to both of you guys. First, Al, and then Dan. Al, Biden, the people around Biden who have been counseling him politically, which is a very small group, smaller than his usual group, seem to have convinced him that this is doable on the mechanical front. He can build a team. He can raise the money. Do you think that they are right?
Not compared to Hillary Clinton. That head start is going to make a huge difference. It's going to make a huge difference organizationally. It's going to make a huge difference financially. Biden's got some people who've been through this before. They're not neophytes, but they're really kind of going almost from a standing start, and that's going to be very, very challenging. The only caveat there is they do have time in the early states, which of course this is not a national primary. It's a bunch of individual states to begin with, and they have time to get organized in Iowa and New Hampshire, I think.
Dan, what do you think about that? Can they get this together on the fly just as a matter of mechanics?
Up to a point, but I'm not sure I agree with Al on Iowa. I think they would have to work very hard to put together the kind of organization that Clinton seems to be building out there. You know, we never know until caucus day what an organization's capabilities really are. I think that the Biden folks think that the long game is their game. That winning in Iowa or New Hampshire is not the key to his hopes of winning the nomination, that they have to win later on. That's a dicey game to play.
Yeah, it seems to me the key to his chances are Bernie Sanders winning in Iowa and New Hampshire, and that's the path that Al, I think, may be there if Sanders can do the work for Biden in those early states.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
All right, guys. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Al. We will be right back with the richest people giving money to help the richest guy, after these words from our sponsors.
So Mr. Donald Trump has somewhere between $3 and infinity billion, and he's hit his rivals for using super PACs. But today, the Washington Post reports Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, has connections to a super PAC that is named after Mr. Trump's slogan, Make America Great Again. And the super PAC is taking money from donors to help Mr. Trump's bid. Joining us now is one of the reporters who shared that Washington Post byline, Matea Gold. So, Matea, Trump's allowed to have a super PAC. What's significance about what you all found in your reporting about his super PAC and his relationship to it?
Well, what's been remarkable is how much he's actually gone after his rivals for having allied super PACs and being, as he put it, in cahoots with them. He's actually used this line on the campaign trail several times that other candidates such as Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton have PACs and that they might actually be communicating with their super PACs in violation of federal election laws. So we actually found that he and his top aide have some pretty strong links to a super PAC that's working to help to elect him. And probably the most telling tie is the fact that the consultant at the super PAC, a man named Mike Saletti, who's based in Colorado, previously worked with Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, at Americans for Prosperity, a conservative advocacy group.
So they're in cahoots. There's some connections. Based on what you found, would those connections be illegal or just hypocritical in the sense that there'd be a cahoots relationship, which Trump, the type of which Trump is criticized?
Well, one of the big questions is whether the firm that Mr. Saletti helps run, which is called Whiz Bang Solutions, it provides printing services, whether they actually have a firewall in place, because the firm's actually been paid by Mr. Trump's campaign at the same time that Mr. Saletti has been serving as a consultant for the super PAC. So, you're allowed to have a common vendor between a super PAC and the campaign, but you have to take some pretty serious steps to make sure there's no inadvertent or advertent coordination going on there.
Matea, we were pretty upset to learn about Whiz Bang Solutions here because that's what we were going to call this show for a while. Luckily, we went the other way. There was another name that jumped out in your story. That name was Kushner.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that name Kushner and what, just for people who haven't read the story yet, explain what Mr. Kushner's involvement is in the super PAC and what his connections are, for those who don't know, to the Trump family.
Right. So the Kushners are another very wealthy real estate family in New York, and Charles Kushner is another large player in real estate. And His son, Jared Kushner, is actually married to Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump's daughter. The Kushners hosted an event for the Make America Great super PAC, and Sarah Kushner, Ivanka's mother-in-law, wrote a check to the super PAC for $100,000. Now, a spokesperson for the family said that Mr. Trump did not solicit that donation, which would be illegal. But clearly, this was a group that the Kushners felt was worthwhile to support and actually kind of as part of the family effort to back Mr. Trump.
Matea, do we know how much that super PAC has raised in total so far?
We don't, and you know, the super PAC is very low key and low profile. We tried repeatedly to reach Mike Saletti with no success. The super PAC has not reported spending any money yet for Mr. Trump. They won't actually have to report any of their donations until January 31st, a day before the Iowa caucuses.
We tried to ask Corey Lewandowski some follow-up questions arising from your story. I suspect some of the questions you all wanted to ask him that he never did answer. He wasn't able to get back to us in time for the show. But my question to you is, of all the unanswered questions you have now regarding the relationship between Trump's campaign and the super PAC, what's the biggest one?
Well, so I think the big unanswered question is what role, if any, did Mr. Lewandowski play in setting up the super PAC? He clearly knows Mike Saletti, and he actually told us at first he didn't, and then changed his mind and said he did know him, then refused to answer further questions about their relationship.
Matea, I'm not suggesting anything. I want to go back to Kushner again. I'm not suggesting there's anything illegal going on here. But again, just for a normal person, if your son-in-law is writing checks to a super PAC, and whether you're soliciting them or not, it would suggest to many people that this super PAC was kind of blessed in some way. Just kind of on the face of it, it seems like this is the thing that the Trump family is kind of supporting, right?
Well, there's several pieces of evidence that should suggest that this super PAC has been sanctioned by Trump or Trump's campaign, and that's how it's viewed by people close to the campaign. The fact that the Kushners wrote a very large check to the super PAC is part of that.
Yep, and that would be legal, but it would be cahoots.
Yes.
Matea Gold, great story. Everybody should read it on the Washington Post website. Thanks for joining us. And we'll be right back with more Bernie and Larry after this.
All right, so you all saw Larry David do his best Bernie Sanders on SNL. But we had Sanders on our show a while ago and showed him this clip from Seinfeld starring Larry David as George Steinbrenner.
George, the word around the office is that you're a communist. You know, George, it struck me today that a communist pipeline into the vast reservoir of Cuban baseball talent could be the greatest thing ever to happen to this organization.
All right, so the internet, being the internet, speculated that it was actually Bernie doing that voice. So we asked Senator Sanders to read the line.
George, the word around the office is that you're a communist.
And then read the next Steinbrenner line there.
You know, George, it struck me today that a communist pipeline into the vast pipeline of Cuban baseball talent could be the greatest thing to happen to this organization.
The internet is going to go on fire because, again, the conspiracy theorist proved correct.
All right, we report. You decide.
They're the same guy. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Sayonara.